More than 50 cultures on every corner of this planet developed religion before they ever invented writing. Not a few, not a regional cluster. 50 unrelated civilizations, no shared language, no trade routes, no contact with each other. All of them built temples, performed rituals, and told stories about invisible beings watching over them, before even a single one of them figured out how to write a sentence. And that's not a coincidence. That's a clue about the human brain. And once you understand it, you start to see human history very differently. Let's start with the brain itself, because this is where it gets interesting. Our brains were not built to find the truth. I know that sounds uncomfortable, but it's accurate. The human brain evolved to keep us alive, and those are two very different design goals. Here's a simple thought experiment. You are walking through tall grass 50,000 years ago. You hear something rustle. Your brain has exactly one job in that moment. Option 1. Assume it's the wind. Keep walking. Option 2. Assume it's a predator. Run. If you're wrong about option 2, you wasted a few seconds of adrenaline. That's fine. If you're wrong about option 1, you're dead. Evolution doesn't reward people who got it right. It rewards the people who survived. And surviving in that environment meant assuming the worst. Always. So over hundreds of thousands of years, human brains developed a strong bias. When something happens around you, assume it was caused by something with intention, not a random process, not an accident, a conscious agent with a reason. Cognitive scientists call this the hyperactive agency detection device, the HADD. When a storm rolls in, the HADD brain doesn't see a weather pattern. It sees someone who is angry. When a child gets sick, it doesn't look random. It looks caused. When a river floods, the HADD brain asks not how, but why, and more importantly, who. That's not stupidity. That was an incredible, effective survival strategy for most of human history. And it meant that our ancestors were quite literally hardwired to believe that invisible forces with intentions were operating on the world around them, long before anyone thought to write any of this down. Now, beliefs come and go. Most ideas people hold disappear within a generation. So why did the idea of God survive for tens of thousands of years in culture after culture without anyone ever coordinating it? The answer has to do with what cognitive anthropologists call minimal violation. Think about the supernatural beings that appear across world religions and methodologies. They almost always share a very specific recipe. They are most likely humans. They have thoughts, desires, emotions, and motivations. You can understand them. You can reason with them. You can make them happy or upset them. But they also break exactly one of two rules of how the physical world normally works. They are invisible. They are everywhere at once. They know what you are thinking without you saying a word. They can pass through walls or live forever. Mostly familiar, slightly impossible. That combination turns out to be almost perfectly designed for human memory. It's surprising enough to grab your attention, but not so strange that your brain can't hold on to it. A completely ordinary person is easy to forget. Something totally nonsensical is impossible to remember. But a being that is 90% human and 10% impossible, that sticks. Studies in cognitive psychology have confirmed this. Concepts with minimal violations are remembered far more reliable than standard concepts. They are easy to process, but nearly impossible to forget. And there's a social dimension too. If a supernatural being is believed to know who kept their promises and who cheated, who was loyal and who betrayed, that belief becomes immediately useful for managing life in a community. You don't need a police force if everyone believes something all-seeing is already watching. A spirit that sees everything isn't just a religious idea, it's a social technology. Here's the third piece of the puzzle, and it's about scale. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar figured out that the human brain is capable of maintaining stable, trusting relationships with roughly 150 people. That's about the limit. Beyond that, the social bonds start to break down. For small bands of hunter-gatherers, 150 is plenty. In a group that size, you know everyone. You know who keeps promises. You know who doesn't. Trust is built on personal history. But as human communities grew into the hundreds or thousands, that personal trust became impossible to maintain. You cannot personally vouch for everyone in a settlement of 5,000 people. Most of them are strangers. Religion solved this problem through what researchers call fictive kinship. You call a stranger brother. You call the deity father. The brain, which evolved in small family groups, extends the same instinctive trust it would give a relative to someone it has never met, because the shared belief creates a sense of common identity. And as societies grew even larger, the gods themselves changed. The gods of small early tribes were often amoral, powerful, yes, but not especially concerned with how humans treated each other. They cared about rain and harvest and victory in battle. But the gods of larger, more complex societies were different. They were moral. They watched human behavior. They rewarded the righteous and punished the dishonest. They were, in effect, divine law enforcement, making it impossible for thousands of strangers who had never met to cooperate, trade, build, and live together. That shift from immoral nature spirits to moralizing gods tracks almost exactly with the growth of the early civilization. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a social solution for a social problem. Now let's talk about the discovery that completely overturned the way historians had been thinking about all of this. For most of the 20th century, the standard story went like this. Humans learned to farm, then settled into villages, then built cities, and then invented religions to hold everything together. First agriculture, then civilization, then gods. That story made intuitive sense, and it was wrong. In 1994, archaeologists began excavating a site in what is now southeastern Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. What they found there forced a serious rethinking. The site is dated to approximately 9,500 before Christ. That is more than 11,000 years ago, roughly 6,000 years before Stonehenge, and thousands of years before the oldest known farming settlement in the region. And it contains massive carved stone pillars, up to 6 meters tall and weighing 20 tons, arranged in circular formations and decorated with detailed reliefs of animals, lions, vultures, foxes, boars. This was monumental construction. It required organized labor at a significant scale, hundreds of people working together over a long period of time. And they were doing this before they farmed. What the archaeological evidence now suggests is that the relationship between religion and civilization runs the other way round from what they assumed. The drive together for a shared ritual, for collective symbolic experience, may have been what caused people to settle down and eventually develop agriculture in the first place. Think about the logic. If you are going to carve and transport 20-ton stone pillars, you need to organize large number of people. If you are organizing that many people in one place, you need to feed them. Feeding large numbers of people reliably means developing agriculture. The ritual may have come before the farm. The temple may have built the city. Writing when it finally appeared, started around 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia and independently elsewhere, did not replace any of this. It extended it. The earliest writing systems were not invented to record trade agreements or legal codes. They were used first for sacred purposes, myths, spells, religious calendars, ritual instructions. Writing was, at its origin, a religious technology. Before writing existed, religion was transmitted through high-intensity shared experience, ritual, ceremony, the kind of events that burns itself into memory because of its emotional power, collective feasts, public sacrifices, rites of passage that everyone in the community participated in together. Those experiences created what researchers called episodic memory, the deep, personal, emotional kind of memory that is almost impossible to forget because you didn't just hear about it, you lived it. But as communities grew too large for everyone to participate in the same ceremony, that system had its limit. You couldn't fit an entire city into one ritual place. You couldn't guarantee that the version of the story being told in one village was the same as the version 3 days walk away. Writing solved the problem. It allowed the story to come standardized, portable, and permanent. What had been transmitted through shared physical experience became doctrine, a set of beliefs and rules that could be copied, distributed, taught to children, and corrected when they drifted. The oral tradition had relied on emotion and memory. The written tradition relied on repetition and record. But both were in service of the same original human impulse: to explain the world, to hold communities together, and to make sense of a life that could end at any moment without warning. So here's what this all adds up to. We did not invent gods because we were primitive or unscientific. We invented them because our cognitive hardware, the tendency to see agents behind events, the preference for beings that are mostly familiar but slightly impossible, the need to build trust at a scale that personal relationships cannot reach, made it almost inevitable. Belief was the first software human ran on the brain. It emerged naturally from the architecture of how we think, long before anyone decided to think about it deliberately. And it worked. Not because the gods were real or not real, that is a separate question entirely, but because the social functions belief performed were genuinely necessary. It allowed strangers to cooperate. It gave communities a shared identity. It provided a framework for moral behavior in a world where no written law existed yet. Religion wasn't an obstacle to civilization. It was, in a very real sense, the foundation that civilization was built on. An alphabet came later. The stone tablet, the clay cylinder, the papyrus scrolls, all of that came much later. But the story itself, the story came first. And the record of it was, in the long sweep of human history, almost an afterthought. 50,000 years of humans trying to make sense of a world full of things they couldn't control, a brain wired to see intention everywhere, communities too large for personal trust alone, and a solution that emerged independently on every inhabited continent on Earth. That's not a cultural quirk. That's human nature. And it started long before anyone wrote it down.